When something goes wrong with a combine hydrostatic transmission, you should know that a quick treatment is no permanent fix. To do the job right, you must do it thoroughly. Take care of the problem once and for all, and the effort is worth it. It saves you and your dealership time and trouble, and it saves your customer money, a benefit for which you'll receive credit. John Deere has been working to make hydrostatic system diagnostics and repairs go more quickly and with greater accuracy. It's in your technical manual, a section which covers everything from a listing of malfunctions to procedures which take you step by step through the diagnostics to get it operating again. In order to diagnose any problem with a hydrostatic system, you first must know its operation and its components. These are covered in the Pathfinder program entitled Hydrostatic System Operation, Diagnostics and Repair. In that program, you'll recall simple diagnostics and field repairs were covered. Know that, and you also know that the hydrostatic system is the basic unit which governs machine travel. If it fails, the principal symptom will be erratic machine travel, or no travel at all. You also know that while the hydrostatic transmission itself is complex, the entire system operates on the age-old principle of hydraulics. Therefore, many failures can be traced to a drop in pressure caused by anything from a pinhole leak to a component failure. Whatever the symptom and its cause, your basic path towards solving the problem lies first with the 7 steps of diagnosis. No matter how complex subsequent diagnostics might become, eventual success must rest with your following these steps in order. We're going to stop the program at this point so you can look at the Pathfinder program which preceded this one and which covers basic operations of the system. Press the restart button when you're ready to continue. The step procedure towards solving a hydrostatic problem begins with a guide in your technical manual entitled Diagnosing Malfunctions. On these pages, you'll find listed everything that can go wrong with a hydrostatic system, followed by a page reference to go to and determine the particular problem. A note of caution here. The page numbers you see referenced in this program may not necessarily be the same as in your technical manual. This is because the technical manual is periodically updated, thus changing page numbers. Like the ingredients on a package of food, the malfunctions are listed in descending order of frequency. The listing begins with freewheeling, the most common ailment, and continues right down to power loss, which is not due to a hydrostatic drive malfunction at all, but which is detailed because it often and mistakenly is blamed on the hydrostatic system. By the way, the least frequent problem which can be attributed to the system is out-of-adjustment shift linkage. Each listed malfunction is followed by a yes or no designation under the next column. If a yes is listed, you are referred to subsequent pages which detail a step-by-step listing of tests to be followed. Note the page number referenced. That page, you will see, is the first of 3 pages of steps to be followed to determine the cause of the freewheeling condition. You'll note that a total of 13 steps are listed. But must you follow them all to determine the cause of the freewheeling? No. And that's the beauty of the step-by-step procedure. Note, for example, how the result of a test performed at step 2 either takes you to step 3, if the drive belts are okay, or all the way up to step 6, if they are slipping. In this manner, you can both save time by avoiding unnecessary test steps and perform a more accurate diagnosis. If the malfunction calls for you to follow the step-by-step diagnostics, then the procedure is done for you. All you have to do is perform tests as required. Eventually, and not too long at that, you'll run out of step references for that problem. The answer is right there. End of test. The problem is isolated. Your next move is to adjust, repair, or replace the malfunctioning component, and the problem is solved. The step-by-step procedure covers just some system malfunctions. In other cases, no step sequence is necessary. Just a single step takes you to the cause of the problem. This is particularly true of malfunctions which can occur within a component. The charge pump, for example. In these cases, you need follow only the 7 steps of diagnosis and your own logic. To diagnose the other problems, you must go to Section 50 of the Technical Manual, which details system components. Here, you'll find photos and exploded art views of the hydrostatic transmission itself, the control valve, the charge pump, the reservoir, the drive belts and sheaves. In all, everything you need to know, not only to diagnose a problem, but to tear down and reassemble any component, right down to the smallest individual part. A no, following the listed malfunction, guides you to Section 50. Here, for example, you see that the third most prevalent problem, that of a combine which moves only occasionally, is caused by scratches on the piston, slippers, or bearing plates, which in turn can be caused by a broken ball guide. In the appropriate part of Section 50, you'll find photographs of scratch and wear patterns on the slipper and bearing plates, plus a photo of a broken ball guide, along with causes and descriptions. The idea here is to compare the failure with the picture, in this way making the logical connection in the absence of the step-by-step procedure. The result, however, should be the same. The cause is isolated and identified. Sometimes the technical manual has photos, at other times exploded views, such as this of the charge pump. The idea is to present as detailed and graphically as possible every component of the hydrostatic system, so that when a problem arises, you'll have no trouble locating and identifying the cause. Before we get into testing and diagnostic procedures, let's stop the program so you can review the materials presented so far. You should scan the technical manual pages to which we have been referencing. Press the restart button when you're ready to continue. Any diagnosis should begin with a pressure test of the system. The only exception might be if the failure is an obvious, visible one, such as a broken belt. A pressure test also will make your total task easier, as it can isolate where in the system the failure has occurred. Pressure testing of the system is performed with this, the Hydrostatic Drive Test Kit. You will use 2 of the gauges, the high pressure gauge and the one marked low for reading charge pressure. You'll need the kit thermometer to test system oil temperature when overheating is suspected and before any pressure test. You take the temperature here through the oil reservoir filler opening. Oil temperature should be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit before the test. Oil temperature should not exceed the outside air temperature plus 80 degrees, and in no case should it be more than 180 degrees. When testing pressure, the normal procedure is to test for charge pressure first, then for high pressure. Also, while the procedure and readings will be the same, the connections for the test equipment will vary, depending on whether the machine does or does not have 4-wheel drive or hydrostatic belt tensioning. Warning: before beginning the test, make sure that the parking brake is on, the foot brake depressed, and the wheels blocked. Also, it requires 2 technicians to conduct these tests, one to operate the combine, the other to take the pressure readings. To test for charge pressure, first connect the 600 psi charge pressure gauge to the gauge port on the hydrostatic pump, or to the hose which leads from that port. With both the speed range control lever and the transmission shift lever in neutral, have the operators start the combine and set it to idle at 1200 RPM. Charge pressure should read between 180 and 250 psi. A note of interest here. If charge pressure is under 180 psi, you definitely have a malfunction. However, under load, it is possible for charge pressure to read 180 psi or above and still have a malfunction. We'll see how in a few moments. Move the transmission shift lever into fourth. Set the engine to fast idle at 2340 RPM. And once more, note the charge pressure reading in neutral. Then, put the engine under load by having the operator move the speed control lever forward. Do not let engine speed drop more than 200 RPM. Again, note the charge pressure reading. Then return the speed control lever to neutral. An important note here. While high pressures won't necessarily damage the system, continuous operation in that condition will cause the high pressure relief or pressure override valves to open. To prevent this from happening, never operate the system under load at high pressure for more than 5 seconds at a time. After taking the charge pressure readings with the speed control lever in forward, pause 15 seconds. Then repeat the procedure. Only this time while moving the speed control lever into reverse. Once more, note the pressure. Then return the lever to neutral. You may have a malfunction if the charge pressure fluctuates rapidly or drops more than 50 psi between neutral and when the system is under load. Here is where you have the condition of the pressure dropping 50 psi or more, yet still being higher than 180. In that case, the end reading is not the point. What matters is the absolute drop in pressure of 50 psi or more. In the event of a 50 psi or greater pressure drop, or if fluctuation occurs, then go to the guide entitled Diagnosing Malfunctions. Now, the connections for a high pressure test. If the combine has a hydrostatic ground drive belt tensioner, the connection is made with a T-fitting at the tensioner. Be sure that the gate valve for the unused port is shut. If the combine is equipped with four-wheel drive, but not the tensioner, the connection is made to the high-pressure ports in the four-wheel drive control valve. And if the combine has neither four-wheel drive or the hydrostatic belt tensioner, then the connection is made to the test ports on the center section of the hydrostatic unit. Once set, the testing procedure itself is pretty much the same as for the charge pressure test. One man to operate the machine, another to take the readings. Speed range lever and transmission in neutral, parking brake on, brakes applied, and wheels blocked to begin. The only exception is that engine speed is set at fast idle. This done, slowly open the gate valve on the test kit. Shift the transmission to fourth gear and put the system under load. Then take the high pressure readings. The correct high pressure reading under load, plus or minus 200 psi, depends on the model and series of the combine. Your technical manual gives the specifications for all models. To perform the high pressure test in reverse, and if the combine is a 6620, you must first close one gate valve and open the other. This done, the procedure is the same as testing for high pressure in forward. If the combine is a 7720 or 8820, simply proceed into reverse and perform the tests. When testing system pressures, it could happen that the charge pressure will be okay, but high pressure will be low in one direction. This may be due to a faulty high pressure relief valve. You can test for this quickly by removing and switching the two relief valves. If high pressure still reads low, then the valve should be cleaned or replaced. If either charge or high pressure is found to be out of spec, Then the next step is to diagnose and isolate the problem. And to do that, you go once more to the step-by-step procedure, where you'll find the first 8 pages devoted exclusively to diagnostics of pressure problems under the heading Hydrostatic Drive Pressure Tests. We'll see how this is done, but first, we'll stop the program so you can review the pressure tests up to this point. Press the restart button when you're ready to continue. Under Instructions on this first step-by-step page for pressure test, note the spaces for recording pressure readings. You might wish to record the readings on another sheet of paper to preserve the integrity of the technical manual page. Once recorded, and assuming you found something wrong, you go to the right-hand Result column. Note that there are 8 contingency situations: 4 for out-of-spec charge pressure readings, 3 to cover low-high pressure readings, and the last for low charge and high pressure. Go through all 8 before marking your choice, so you'll be sure to find the one that best covers your situation. Now suppose that the topmost result exists. The charge pressure is low in neutral. Note that it refers you to Step 2. Step 2 tells you that this could be due to 2 causes: tension of either the charge pump or hydrostatic drive belts. If the belts are slipping, then tighten them. And as the note under Result says, that should solve the problem. End of test. On the other hand, if belt tension is okay, then the problem is due to something else. The step-by-step procedure will direct you to Step 3. Step 3 tells you that if belt tension is all right, then the problem may be a leaking O-ring in the displacement control valve. If you find it leaking, then replace it. And once more, end of test. But if it's okay, then you're directed to the next step, number 4. Step 4 supposes that the problem might be a plugged suction hose. If that's found to be the case, then replace it and you've solved the problem. But suppose the suction hose is okay. Then it's on to Step 5, using the flow rater. The flow rater is a special device available from Service Guard Tools, which is used to test the flow rate between the charge pump and the hydrostatic unit. You are directed to take flow ratings at 2 pressures, 0 and 250 psi. Depending on the test result, you are then directed to go to either of 3 subsequent steps: 6, 7, or 8. If the flow rate was low at 0 psi, Step 6 notes that the inner lining of the suction hose is collapsing and must be replaced. Or the charge pump should be repaired or replaced. If the flow rate is low at 250 psi, then Step 7 says to repair or replace the charge pump. And if the flow rate is okay, then Step 8 tells you that the problem lies with the charge pressure relief valve and spring. In any event, these steps contain the last tests you can perform if the problem is low charge pressure in neutral. The first example of low charge pressure in neutral covered several steps and tests. But in certain cases, the step-by-step procedure will direct you to just a single step test to be performed, once more pointing up the advantage of the step-by-step logic. For instance, if charge pressure fluctuates in neutral, then you're directed to Step 22, which states simply that the cause is air being drawn into the suction hose, and the solution is to tighten the hose clamps or replace the hose. If the charge pressure is low in both directions, then you go to Step 9, where the cause is found to be simple: contamination in the hydrostatic system. Although the cure will take some time, you must disassemble and flush the entire system. On the other hand, if charge pressure is high in either direction, then you go to Step 10, where the single and simple solution is to replace both check valves. If charge pressure is okay but high pressure is 0, you are taken to step 11. Here you see that the cause may be in the transmission shift linkage. If the shaft on the transmission does not budge when you move the transmission shift lever, then you are directed to step 12, which says to inspect and adjust the shift linkage. On the other hand, if the shaft does move, then you go to step 13. Step 13 calls for you to conduct certain tests to the hydrostatic control lever itself. Once more, depending on the result of the test, and in this case the make of hydrostatic unit, you are referred to subsequent steps 14, 15, or 17. Step 14 calls for you to repair or adjust the hydrostatic drive linkage, while steps 15 and 17 have to do with repairs to the control valves. Here again, you follow them through to eventually arrive at the cause of the problem. By this point, you're beginning to get the idea, which is to follow the step-by-step procedure exactly, performing the tests or making the required adjustments or repairs which are called for at each step. All follow numerical order through the step-by-step procedure with one exception: the last situation where charge pressure is low and high pressure is low in one direction only. The initial direction takes you to step 20. Step 20 asks you to perform either of two tests on the displacement control valve, depending on the make of unit. But notice that if there is no change in the operation after performing the test, you are referred backward in the step-by-step procedure to step 9, which states that the cause is contamination in the hydrostatic system itself, and that the solution is to disassemble and flush the system. Wherever the step-by-step procedure takes you, though, you will eventually pinpoint the pressure problem. Before we get into diagnosing other troubles within the system, we'll stop the program so you can review what has been presented in conducting hydrostatic drive pressure tests. Press the restart button when you're ready to continue. You remember that the step-by-step procedure can be used to diagnose problems other than those of drive pressure. These happen to be the initial steps you follow to diagnose the most common problem of the hydrostatic drive, that of freewheeling. Note step 1. You see that the problem could be simply one of high engine speed. But if engine speed is okay, then you're directed to step 2, where you're asked to check the drive belts for tension. If the drive belts are all right, if they're not slipping, you go to step 3, where you find that the problem may be one of loose transmission cover cap screws. Tighten them. If the combine still freewheels, then it's on to step 4, which calls for a check of the shift linkage. If the combine still freewheels, then you go to step 5. Step 5 directs that you conduct pressure tests to determine the cause of freewheeling. This, of course, refers you back to that section of the step-by-step procedure which deals with pressure tests. Here, you follow the progression already noted. First the tests, then the steps to determine the cause using the procedure based on the individual pressure test result. That should eventually lead you to the cause of the freewheeling. But right now, let's go back to step 2 in the freewheeling diagnosis, to what you do if the drive belts are slipping. Note that you are referred to step 6, which calls for a check and adjustment of the hydrostatic drive mechanism. Power from the engine drives the hydrostatic unit indirectly through belts and sheaves. As you know, such mechanisms can go out of adjustment. In particular, belts can loosen and slip. This being the case, certain malfunctions are flags that the cause may rest with the drive system. These 5 symptoms may be caused by a misadjusted drive system or worn drive belts and sheaves. The point is, if the customer complaint concerns any of these, or if a charge pressure test is low, check the drive system first. It's right there out in the open, and adjustments can be easy. You might pay particular attention to signs of wear on the belts or sheaves. Even if belts and sheaves are properly adjusted, too much or uneven wear can cause the system to malfunction. As it happens, the balance of the step-by-step procedure covers the drive system-related problems of sluggish system response and erratic ground speed. In fact, and as you would expect, step references are directed to the drive system. In addition, the step-by-step procedure can be used to diagnose problems of the combine not moving in either direction, moving in only one direction, binding in the speed range lever linkage, neutral being difficult or impossible to find, system overheating, excessive oil loss, and system vibration. In all, and especially involving the pressure tests, the step-by-step procedure covers a lot of tests and troubles, many, but by no means all. To diagnose other ailments, you may have to apply some step-by-step procedure skills of your own. In other words, think the problem through and analyze it based on your own experience and intuition. For example, note the problem shown here of the combine hesitating when moving the speed range lever in one direction, but response is good in the other direction. You see that any of three malfunctions may cause this condition. And you see further that to find the cause, you must consult Section 50 of the technical manual. The first cause listed may be a defective high-pressure relief valve. These pages from that section show you in description and pictures how to inspect and service that component. Or the condition may be caused by a defective check valve. And here is a page which shows you how to inspect them. And these pages show and tell you how to adjust, repair, or replace a control valve. The third listed cause for that condition, you may remember, is a defective directional control valve. Whatever the problem or symptom, above all, remember this: the solution is in your technical manual. If you follow the 7 steps of diagnosis and use your head, eventually you'll find the cause. And that done, you're ready to repair or replace the defective component. Well, that's a subject for the 3rd Pathfinder program in this series on the hydrostatic system. Just remember to follow procedure, and you'll have everything working properly in no time. Perhaps best of all, the work will be done without the unnecessary expense of replacing an entire component. A big savings to you, your dealership, and your customers.